Good afternoon. We are here together with the Story Collaborative. I'm Dave Mills, the Chief Growth Officer. Let me have these two very smart people introduce themselves.
Hey, Amy Alexander here, Creative Director.
How's it going? I'm Chad Alexander. I'm the growth driven design engineer here at Story Collaborative, meaning that I help your website improve over time.
Awesome. Well, it's fun to be here on a Thursday, and it's lovely outside here in Virginia. It's only I think the temperature today was going to be 91 degrees and it feels like 106 or something like that. So it's also special. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about one of the ways that sales teams and businesses that rely upon sales. What are you drinking, Amy? It looks pretty good.
Cold brew.
So
Or a little local
after
coffee shop.
after that free advertisement for cold brew, whatever brand it might be, we're going to talk about how sales teams and companies that rely on sales can get better performance for their salespeople by paying attention to the online buyer experience. So here's the secret life of buyers that we're going to talk about today. Buyers are doing something they're not telling you about while they are talking to you if you're a salesperson. They're checking out your website. What they're trying to do is they're trying to educate themselves and learn as much as they can. They want to be smart in the way that they purchase, and so they're using your website to try and do that. And they're gonna look at your website before they talk to you, while they're talking to you, and after they talk to you. And so they're going to have this online experience, and that online experience is either going to make their life better in terms of their sales and decision process, or it's going to make it worse. And so the digital sales effectiveness now depends upon the online buyer experience. The huge frustrating thing about that for salespeople is it's like completely out of your control, right? So if it's going well, it can help you. If it's not going well, it won't. So let's talk just for a minute about kind of the maybe three parties that are thinking about the online buyer experience. Now, it might be news to people that salespeople should be concerned about buyer journeys. What do you guys think about that idea?
Yeah, I think that it's still a super pervasive idea in sales culture that people are going to come to you from day one and ask a bunch of questions and sort of like walk through the process with you. That's not how it's done. It's not been done that way for quite some time. And it's becoming less that way, right? Like we've talked about that before on our live. So this idea that everything up until someone talks to you is marketing is really old school. And that can be surprising, but if you think about the way you buy, you realize that you sell yourself too. And that's exactly what other people do. Like you're not alone in the way that you operate. You operate the way that 90% of other people operate as far as buying stuff.
Anything you want to add, Chad?
No, Amy covered it.
Wow, she did.
Great.
So there's kind of three parties in this. So we've identified the fact the fourth party is the buyer, and they're the ones that we have to actually satisfy in the online experience, right? So the other three parties that are in this mix of thinking about whether the website is helping or hurting sales would be the salesperson, senior leadership or ownership of the company, or executive director if you're a nonprofit, or the marketing director or the CMO, right? So these are the three perspectives, and so we're saying, hey, your website is impacting your sales either for the good or for the bad. And so the three people that have to look at that. So as a salesperson, how do salespeople look at the website? What are their perspectives on that, right? And we've talked to a lot of salespeople. We've worked and coached a lot of salespeople, and those sales folks are looking at the website, and first of all, they don't spend a lot of time on it. And they will go and look at it if a customer or buyer says that there's a contradiction between what they're saying and what the website says, right? In a well-supported sales environment, the salesperson would be using articles and content from the website to send out to their prospects, right? They would be doing that. But in general, the salespeople kind of feel like they're in a different silo than the people who manage the website, and like they don't talk to each other that much. So even if the salesperson has opinions about the website, then often they get dismissed and they don't get listened to. So that's kind of one lens: is the sales guys, it's not our gig. We don't understand the web thing, and just don't contradict me. That's kind of the deal. What about the owner? How does the owner or the kind of the senior manager look at the website?
I think that really anyone in an organization is looking at it in a bit of a silo, you know? Like, we do the same thing in branding. We understand exactly what our name means, we understand where we came from. So it's really hard to understand how someone would see our brand or our marketing messaging if they've never experienced us before. It's really, really hard to get out of your own way, kind of. And so I think owners have a hard time getting out of their own way. I also think that their expectations for what goes on the website, it is typically, you know, how much have we talked about ourselves? How detailed is information about our services? Those are the two most important things. Talk about ourselves a lot. Make sure our services are extremely well detailed and outlined, and that should pretty much cover it, you know. And that sometimes, well, often, that's wrong. Elements of that can be wrong. But you know, when you're talking, I was thinking about a place where websites are, where sales and websites meet very normally is in e-commerce, right? Or when you're selling commodities, like salespeople that have been selling commodities, that where you go buy something on the website, they've been working on this for a very long time. This is a totally normal thing, that your website would help sell the product. The way the products are described, the experience someone has, how easy it is to buy, how much value add there is, all of those things are things that people in e-commerce are thinking about. And it's a big shift, I think, for us when we're talking about a more considered sale, like a service or something. But that's kind of the mindset you have to get into, is like, how easy is it for someone to sell themselves something on my website, even if they're spending, you know, $200,000, or they're going to be signing a year-long contract, or whatever the service is.
I mean, if I'm a salesperson and you're suggesting to me that I can have prospects come to me who've already sold themselves, and all I have to do is help them across the finish line, hey, that sounds like a pretty good deal, right? So why wouldn't I want to help them? Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. So Chad, when the marketing director looks at the website, like, what are they seeing that's maybe different from the owner, senior leadership, or the salespeople?
Sure. Well, oftentimes the marketing director is responsible for the website, and so they coordinate the day-to-day processes of it. They got it up. They did all the content behind it. They did all the marketing lingo, all that stuff. Sometimes the marketing swill, all that, and so they're in the trenches, right? And so they kind of have like this myopic view of the website. They don't like they don't take a step back and look at it kind of holistically. They just say, oh, okay, this has worked all these years. Let's just do it this way, or this part's not working. It's never worked. All right, but they don't like pull the thread on why it's not working, or pull the thread on why something's working and how they can make it better. So they're just kind of in their own little world, but they don't optimize.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to see because they're right in the middle of it, right? And like they've looked at the website so many times already, like they can't see anything fresh, you know. So I mean, I think the one place, as you mentioned, Amy, where sales and the owners or managers and the marketing director probably all agree, is they like all agree on the spec sheets. You know, whatever the details of the product or service, we all want the spec sheets to be right. But basically, that's essentially an online brochure. Um, Right. So you know, so as we think about this, like what's missing from this picture? So the buyer comes to the website, they have a need or problem, and I'm giving them spec sheets, and also I'm telling them the 16 paragraph history of how my company was formed in a wagon camp and in the Great Depression, and now we sell cactus in red pots. Like this really long, boring, dusty story, right? That's what we give them. And and as long as there's a spec sheet there, everyone's happy. But is that really what the buyer actually needs when they come to the website? Is that actually going to help sales?
I don't know. Are you an engineer looking
Yeah,
to buy?
and I want to drill on the
product?
beautiful spec sheets, right? Oh, these are amazing spec sheets. Look at those diagrams. They're beautiful. I love these wireframe diagrams. No,
It has
I'm
all the
not.
ports I wanted. Yeah, no, I mean that's not how we buy, right? Like it's just not. Certainly there's features, products, value, like there's elements to what we're buying, even in services that you are looking for, whatever it is. But giving those details and giving some details you need to help people feel informed and helping them feel informed about the options is a very different story than giving them a very long detailed page of exactly what your service entails and deciding that that's enough. Those are very different activities. And you're really, I think in the end, you're asking the buyer to buy the way you feel like selling, if that's the only thing you're planning to do to help them decide if they're going to choose you. And they're just not going to do it. They're not
Yes.
interested.
So Chad, what do you see working on websites that actually adds value? Because what Amy's describing is basically the end of the sales process. Like I'm looking at the spec sheets, comparing your services against somebody else's, your price against someone else's, your guarantee, whatever. I'm comparing. I'm ready to decide. That's the very end, right? So what do you see on a website that actually makes you want to engage, stick around, and is actually helpful before you get to this review of specs at the end of the process?
How easy have they made it for me to find what I need? How responsive have they been to my questions? Have they had any questions on their website? What are they conveying to me? Not just a spec sheet, but like, do they detail stuff enough? Do I understand the process? Like, when can I expect my shipment? Those sort of things where it's like spelled out for you, and like it's good information. I mean, I'll give an example. I recently bought a product, and they, as soon as it was delivered, they sent me a how-to video, and they sent me all the steps in it in an email of how to install this thing. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I've never had that with a product before I bought online. I was like, this is really cool. And it was a great journey that they kind of led me through. But they just kind of held my hand, and I actually rang them up for support. They called me immediately, and this was, I just sent them an email. I was like, okay, they'll get back to me, whatever. They called me back like 5 minutes later, right? I mean, it was just seamless service.
That's
I
amazing.
think,
So I purchased something recently. I purchased a kit to build a Murphy bed. And so like I'm not, and it was expensive, and I'm not like a great woodworker. I'm a basic woodworker. I know what wood is. I know what a drill is and how to make holes in it. I know what glue and nails are. So my question, I'm looking at these different.
You're way ahead of me.
I looked all over the internet. These are expensive products. They're $300-400 for these kits, right? I looked all over the internet to see what I could find, because my question was not how much does it cost or what does it do. I wanted to know how stinking hard is it to put this together. That's all I cared about, because I was asking the question, can I put this together with my limited and feeble woodworking skills, right? And so what happened is I found the one I thought was maybe the best one based upon reviews that were not on the website, by the way. They were somewhere else. And they didn't have any video that showed how to put it together. So what I had to do is I had to go to YouTube myself, and I had to go find other woodworkers who actually had skills and watch their videos about how they put it together. And that's the only thing that gave me enough confidence to buy the thing. So in my mind, their website was a complete fail. They had detailed instructions. That was nice, but they were like, they were like for woodworkers. They weren't for people like me. So I had to go outside and educate myself as a buyer somewhere else. And they could have sold me way faster if they had just had somebody do a video to say, here's how it works, here's how you do it. So I think there's a lot of questions people are asking that are not the questions that the salespeople want to answer. They're the questions about, will this meet my need? Will this be hard to use? How smart do I have to be to use it? Will it save me time, cost me time? What other people are using it? So I think there's a whole bunch of questions that have to go way before the spec sheet that answer what people are. Go ahead. I'll be quiet.
I have an add-on about the spec sheet. So the other day I had to replace my my car's headlights, and so I look at the packaging on the back. I just want to make sure it's the right one and all that stuff. You got to make sure it's the right serial number. And so I'm looking at it, and it's like, these bulbs are brighter than the other bulbs that we provide. And I'm thinking, dude, I just bought these 2 years ago. How about you give me a guarantee that's going to last more than 2 years, buddy? Like, it was horrible, but it was like this spec sheet. I'm like, this doesn't tell me anything. Just like brighter. What do you measure that in? Do you measure in lumens? Do you measure it in your whatever? It doesn't matter. Anyways,
yeah.
Ran over.
I think you guys have both touched on two important elements. One would be answering questions, and the other would be responding to fears and felt needs. So, when I'm researching like a company to come clean my house, if I don't know, I happen to be like really into what I call like hippie health stuff. It's not really hippie anymore. It's pretty mainstream, but like I really don't like chemicals. I've done the research. I understand what more than 2 chemicals used on a regular basis can do to your chances of cancer, stuff like that, right? So we're chemical free, clean home, right? So if I'm searching chemical free versus this type of cleaning service, a cleaning service that answers that question that I can find on Google is now my number one trusted source. Even if they're pro chemicals, the fact that they would explain to me the differences and the pros and cons and what may or may not be the best choice for our home and our family, like those are the kinds of questions your website can answer to gain trust. And then I think felt needs, like what are my fears around having my house clean? Can you address those fears? Can you guarantee against those fears? Those are really, really important things that all go into kind of the psychological element of being sold something. And we're smart enough now to be able to address them.
And we're going to find the answers for ourselves, whether or not they give them to us on the page. So really what's happening for a salesperson is, if the website is not supporting the sales process as we've described by helping people educate themselves and sell themselves, as you said, Amy, then basically this person is going to go somewhere else to get those answers, right?
Absolutely.
And every time they go somewhere else, what you're doing is you're knocking the knees out of the sales guy, because the somewhere else might be actually another product that is actually better at explaining these things. So the salespeople are, buyers have decided they will educate themselves. It's a fact.
Yep.
They're going to do it on your website. If they cannot do it there, they will do it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I do it all the time on Amazon. I look at the product reviews, and I look at the 5-star reviews and the 1-star reviews, and figure out, sometimes you'll glean a lot more information from the 1-star reviews than you will the 5-star reviews.
That's right. And so that's the reality. And so I think for owners, salespeople, and marketing directors, what they actually need is they need an outside resource to look at their website and help them figure out, are you supporting sales with this website, or are you undermining sales? Because it's really, the salespeople, it's not really their gig. They don't often get heard. The owner's got his eyes looking out from his own perspective. The marketing director is so engaged in the website they can't even see it. They got website blindness now. They've seen it so many times, right? Like, how many times can you change the word "and"? They get tired of that. So they need an outside person. So what we typically do, which I think is really helpful to people, is we give them an outside review. And we look at whether or not these things are being answered. We look at, are the buyers getting their questions and concerns answered? Have sales insights actually been built into the website? How is your website comparing with your competition? I'm totally shocked. When I visit, and we do buyer journey workshops, we do them every month, and I am shocked by the lack of awareness that people have of what their competition is doing.
Yeah.
And people tell me, oh, I know my competition. And then we start looking at the competition's websites, and it's a mind blower for most of our clients, because they have never actually spent the time to see what the competition is doing. All of that is working against sales, big time.
Right.
We're also looking at differentiators, and we're looking at whether or not there's a buyer journey in the website at all, right? So this kind of outside feedback is super helpful to people that want to improve, the website that their salespeople are doing. So in your experience, guys, like what are some of the big standout aha moments that you've seen in websites that were kind of really hurting sales and they became stronger to support sales? What were the changes that you saw that resulted from this kind of process of reviewing, doing a buyer journey, and then upgrading that website so it did the job? Any thoughts about that?
I can think of one client that sells services sort of. Oh, Chad's not on mute, but he's talking to somebody that's not us.
No, go ahead.
All
go
the way
ahead.
from
He's talking to himself.
all the way from consumer to very, very large organization. When we came in, they had an abundance of forms, all of which were not being used. None of them were being, no one was filling them out. And so we were able to streamline that, give him a buyer journey, and the conversations we had with him actually helped unlock an aha moment for him. And as far as like, what is that buyer journey? What is the goal? How long should the buyer journey be? Typically start with a 3-page buyer journey and go from there. And so we fiddled with that just a little bit. And from his own sort of aha moment, we were able to implement the most effective form and buyer journey that he's had to date. And that, that was simply the process of getting information out of his head, organizing it, and then saying it back to the consumers in a way that addressed their felt needs and answered their questions. That's been a really fun process.
That's good. How about you, Chad? What's a change that you've seen that has unlocked some benefit for the sales process?
Amy stole mine, so no. No, I will say one. No, you're fine. No, one good example is, you had to play by Google's rules, right? So we had a website and it was doing fairly well, but we said, what if we really amped it up on Google My Business and started posting on there and kind of got all their information in one place, and it took off like gangbusters. I mean, it if I remember correctly, within 3 months, like tripled their traffic onto their Google My Business, and they got a lot more phone calls as a result, and they got a lot more people on the website as a result. And so, sometimes it's just, having another set of eyes to say, well, have you guys considered looking at LinkedIn for ads? Have you, whatever the strategy may be, but having somebody who's got a little bit more of taking a step back kind of perspective always helps. And I was in my previous life, I was a tester for the federal government, and we would always have a developmental test team and then an operational test team. Well, the operational test team, whereas the developmental test team try to break it, the operational test team try to make sure that in the field, how would a user use this product? And so I think this is just having someone work on your website. There should be an operational kind of viewpoint where they kind of use it like the user would use it.
And I just want to point out, that Chad's example about Google My Business was actually a website strategy that changed some web structures so that it would take advantage of what Google My Business could do. And that's where the traffic came from. So it was a website change. I think my example would be one that we've been working on recently. And, it was really hurting sales because you would go on the website, and the first thing that would happen is it would have on the home page, it would have a pop-up come up that would block the entire home page to try and take you somewhere else. Then, once you got past that, then it would have another pop-up that would come up that when you clicked the pop-up, it would go off to the software company that made the pop-up, and that's where it took you, right? So you had these two blockers. Thank you, Chad, for blocking the screen. I had these two blockers that were stopping people from even using the website. And then the third thing that was happening is that a lot of their a lot of their information that was getting hits on Google was getting hits on PDFs. So people were getting their PDFs from their website and they had no reference of the traffic.
Yeah.
There was no way for anybody to respond. It was like not helping sales at all, right? So we see these kind of technical issues that people experience. And so there's a whole variety of things that whether they're technical or whether they're practical, operational, as Chad said. So I just want to throw up a link. If you want one of these reviews, if since you've spent the time with us today watching this engaging and hilarious video, I just want to put up a link, save you a bunch of money on a review. And this is a professional review in which you can get the kind of outside feedback you need to kind of fix things that are obviously broken, and then, as Chad mentioned, optimize and take advantage of things, and also create these aha moments. So we really appreciate everyone listening today. Hope you got some value out of this, and we will look forward to seeing you. Actually, you'll be seeing us next Thursday at the same time. Have a great day.
Well, actually, we'll be on vacation.
Oh, you're right. We'll be on vacation next
yeah.
Thursday, so you'll have to watch a rerun of what we're doing. So watch this again next week. Right.
So come with us on vacation, or don't do that. Yeah, take your own vacation. Take a break.
Take care.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.